The man in black. Night air outside the Marriott Grand Ballroom in New York City was thick with anticipation. Black cars lined the street. Flashes from cameras lit the darkness like fireworks. The red carpet shimmered with footsteps of the powerful and the wealthy. It was a charity gala, but more than that. It was a place where reputations were polished, where the rich showed off their shine, and where celebrities walked like royalty. Inside the ballroom, golden chandeliers swung softly above velvet drapes and crystal glassware. Tuxedos and silk gowns brushed past one another. Champagne flutes clinked. A string quartet played softly in the background. This was a world of quiet wealth, whispered deals, and unspoken judgments. Among the crowd walked a man dressed in a black tuxedo. His hair was shoulder-length, dark with flecks of silver. He had a calm face, humble eyes, and a quiet smile. Most guests didn't recognize him at first. He moved through the crowd without making noise, just like a shadow. He didn't wave. He didn't pose. He didn't seek attention. He was Keanu Reeves, but too many in the room. He was just another man in black. At the far end of the ballroom, a group of young tech investors stood near the open bar. They were loud, laughing, trying hard to impress one another. One of them, Bradley Voss, leaned back and pointed toward Keanu, who was calmly helping an older woman find her table. Bradley smirked and said, "Hey, that new waiter's doing overtime tonight." The others burst into laughter. Must be his first day, another joked, probably trying to get a tip from old lady Winston. Keanu didn't hear them, or maybe he did. But if he did, he didn't react. He just nodded politely to the older woman and walked away. Bradley wasn't done. He watched Keanu move toward the far side of the room, where a few more guests were arriving late. A tray of champagne stood on a side table. Without hesitation, Keanu picked up a glass and handed it to a woman struggling with her handbag. She thanked him softly, not recognizing him either. "Oh, now he's really going full service," Bradley said loudly. "Someone give this guy a raise." Guests nearby turned and glanced at Keanu. Some chuckled. Some raised eyebrows. One even whispered, "Is he staff?" But then, something shifted. A young girl walked into the ballroom, holding her mother's hand. The mother looked tired, maybe overwhelmed. They were clearly not rich, not dressed like everyone else. The girl stared at the crystal chandeliers above with wide eyes. Keanu noticed. He walked over, bent down, and smiled at the girl. "First time seeing lights like these?" he asked gently. The girl nodded shyly. "They're beautiful," she whispered. "They are," Keanu said, "but you're more beautiful than all of them." The mother looked at him, surprised. "Thank you," she said softly, her voice shaking a little. Keanu guided them toward their seats. He didn't know them. He didn't ask why they were there. He just helped. A man nearby noticed and leaned over to another guest. "Wait, is that Keanu Reeves?" Now heads started turning. A murmur grew among the guests. Phones were subtly pulled out. One by one, people began to realize who the man in the tuxedo really was. Bradley's smirk vanished. He stared at Keanu, frozen, but Keanu wasn't looking at him. Instead, he walked toward the small stage where a host was introducing the night's keynote speaker. "Ladies and gentlemen," the host said, "please welcome someone who has given more to silent causes than most people know, a man of humility, of deep kindness, Mr. Keanu Reeves." Gasps filled the ballroom. Bradley turned pale. The girl he mocked was now clapping. Her mother had tears in her eyes. Keanu stepped onto the stage. He adjusted the microphone slowly, then looked out at the sea of tuxedos and gowns. His voice was quiet, calm, honest. "Thank you," he said. "I came tonight not to be seen, but to support something that matters. This cause helps children with no homes, no families, and no futures. I know what that feels like." His voice trembled for a moment. "I was once that child," he continued, "and I survived because someone believed I was worth something. Not because of money, not because of fame, just because I was human." The room fell silent. Keanu looked at the little girl in the front row and smiled. "We can all be that someone for a child," he said. Applause thundered through the ballroom. People stood up, some with tears, some with shame, some with newfound respect. Bradley couldn't meet Keanu's eyes. After the speech, Keanu stepped off the stage and walked toward the bar. A young waiter, clearly nervous, handed him a drink. I'm sorry. The waiter said, I thought you were one of us earlier. Keanu chuckled gently. I am one of you. He said, we all serve in different ways. Then he turned to the girl and her mother again, knelt beside them, and said, thank you for being here. You made this night special. And in that moment, the crowd no longer saw a man mistaken for a waiter. They saw a man who carried kindness like armor, a man who made silence louder than applause, a man who didn't need to shout to shake the room. And the night was just beginning. The whisper that echoed after the thunderous applause faded. A soft hum of new respect filled the ballroom. Something had shifted in the air. People who once looked past Keanu were now watching him closely. But Keanu wasn't thinking about the applause. He was thinking about the girl's smile, the light in her eyes when she looked up at the chandeliers. He was thinking about the mother who looked like she hadn't felt seen in years. But the night was far from over. In the corner of the ballroom, Bradley Voss sat at a round table, nursing his pride along with a glass of red wine. His friends had grown quiet, their jokes dying somewhere between embarrassment and confusion. Bradley leaned over to his closest friend, Martin. How the hell did we not recognize him? He whispered. Martin shrugged. He's not like the others. No entourage. No flashy watch. He acted like a regular guy. Bradley scowled. He acted like a waiter. The bitterness in his voice didn't go unnoticed. Nearby, an older man named Elliot Turner watched Bradley with narrowed eyes. Elliot had been in the business world for decades. A quiet investor with a sharp sense of character. He'd seen men like Bradley before, loud on the surface, hollow underneath. But Keanu? He saw something else entirely. Elliot stood up and walked across the ballroom, stopping beside Keanu, who had returned to his seat at the back, away from the spotlight. Mr. Reeves, Elliot said gently. Keanu looked up and smiled. I want to thank you for your words tonight. Elliot continued. They were honest, and honesty is rare in this room. Keanu nodded humbly. Thank you for listening. Elliot hesitated for a moment. May I ask you something personal? Sure. Why didn't you correct anyone when they thought you were a waiter? Keanu looked thoughtful. His eyes dropped for a second before lifting again. Because being mistaken for someone who serves others isn't an insult, he said softly. It's a reminder that no job is small. I've cleaned floors, stocked shelves, carried bags. Every moment of that taught me something important. It made me human. Elliot was silent for a beat. Then he smiled. You're not just human, son. You're a lighthouse in a storm. Keanu laughed gently. I don't know about that. I just try to be kind. Elliot offered his hand. My name is Elliot Turner, and I think we should talk sometime. Not about movies, about something deeper. Keanu shook his hand with warmth. I'd like that. As Elliot walked away, another figure approached Keanu. It was the event coordinator, a young woman named Nadia. She looked worried. Mr. Reeves, she said quickly, I'm so sorry. Some guests, they were confused earlier. I should have announced you properly. Keanu raised his hand. It's okay, really. Sometimes the best moments come from being invisible. Nadia looked at him, unsure how to respond. Then she handed him a small envelope. This just came for you, she said. Keanu opened it carefully. Inside was a note, handwritten on delicate cream paper. It read, You saw me when no one else did. Thank you for that, Claire. He blinked once, then looked around the ballroom. His eyes landed on the woman from earlier, the tired mother with the little girl. They were seated now, quietly eating, but the woman kept glancing his way. Keanu smiled to himself. Then the lights dimmed again. The host returned to the stage. Now, she said, we begin the donor presentation. Tonight, we'll honor those whose contributions changed thousands of lives. Names appeared on the large screen behind her. Millionaires, tech founders, real estate moguls. But then, one name appeared that made the room still again. Anonymous donor, $40 million. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Bradley leaned forward. Who would donate that much and stay anonymous? Martin whispered. Maybe someone who doesn't care about being seen. Bradley's jaw clenched. Keanu sat quietly, watching the screen. Without blinking, because that donation was his. He didn't do it for credit, or fame, or claps. He did it because the children needed it. Because he had once been a boy staring at the world through a cracked window, hoping someone would care. He didn't need his name on a wall. He just wanted his actions to speak louder than the noise in the room. As the evening rolled on, a dance floor opened near the center of the ballroom. People paired up, the music swelling into something gentle and dreamy. Laughter returned, but now it carried a different tone, softer, more human. Bradley stood up, drink in hand, and made his way toward Keanu. His friends watched nervously. He stopped beside Keanu's table. "Listen," Bradley began, trying to sound casual. "I didn't know who you were earlier." Keanu nodded once. "I know. I thought you were, well, someone else." Keanu looked him in the eye. "You thought I was beneath you." Bradley blinked. "No, it's okay," Keanu said calmly. "People show who they are in small moments." "You did." Bradley opened his mouth to defend himself, but nothing came out. Keanu stood, picked up a glass of water, and handed it to Bradley. "Cheers," he said gently. Bradley stared at the glass. Then he took it, awkward and unsure. Keanu walked past him, disappearing into the edge of the crowd. Bradley turned around slowly, realizing the entire room had just witnessed something he hadn't planned. Humility handed to him by the very man he mocked, and he would never forget it. Meanwhile, the little girl was dancing barefoot on the edge of the dance floor, spinning under the chandeliers. Laughter like bells. Keanu watched from a distance, his heart full. That night, he didn't give a speech. He gave people something they didn't expect. A mirror, and the reflection was changing everyone. Astor's quiet hands and heavy hearts. Next morning, New York City buzzed like it always did. Cabs honked, steam rose from sidewalk grates, and busy people rushed down crowded streets. But somewhere above all that noise, in a small coffee shop tucked between a bookstore and a dry cleaner, sat Keanu Reeves. He wore a plain black hoodie, his hair tied back, and his face hidden behind a newspaper. No one noticed him. He liked it that way. His mind drifted back to the girl from the gala, her smile, her laughter as she danced beneath chandeliers. He thought of her mother too, who looked like she carried the weight of 100 silent worries. People like that reminded him why he did what he did. He didn't need cameras. He needed connection. His phone vibrated. It was a message from Elliot Turner. "Coffee, 10 a.m. my office, 47th floor. Come as you are." Keanu smiled. He finished his drink, dropped a tip in the jar, and walked out quietly. Up in the city's glass towers, Elliot's office felt like another world. Clean lines, leather furniture, and a skyline view that made everything below look small. When Keanu walked in, Elliot was already waiting with 2 cups of coffee and a folder on the table. "Morning," Elliot said warmly. "Morning," Keanu replied, taking a seat. "I wanted to talk to you about something," Elliot began, pushing the folder across the table. "What you did last night, the donation, the speech, your presence, it moved people. It moved me." Keanu didn't answer. He just opened the folder. Inside were photos of children. Their faces were filled with hope and pain, laughter and loss. These were kids from shelters, from broken homes, from forgotten corners of the city. "These," Elliot said, "are the ones we try to help. We've done good work, but with someone like you, we could do something greater. Not just money, presence, honesty, example." Keanu's eyes stayed on one picture, a boy with a missing tooth and a handmade sign that read, "I believe in you." "What are you asking me?" Keanu said softly. "Help us build something that lasts," Elliot said. "A foundation, not in your name, in theirs." Keanu closed the folder and nodded. "I'm in." That was how the Reeves-Turner Foundation began, not with a press release, not with a handshake for the cameras, but with 2 men sitting at a table, sharing coffee and a vision. Meanwhile, in a quiet apartment in Brooklyn, Claire sat at her small kitchen table, holding the same envelope she'd written the night before. Her daughter Emma played with a coloring book nearby. Claire had been nervous at the gala. She felt like a mistake in that room full of diamonds and tuxedos. But Keanu had treated her like she mattered. No questions, no pity, just kindness. She hadn't told Emma who he was, but Emma already knew something special had happened. "Mama," she said, looking up, "was that man an angel?" Claire smiled through tears. "Maybe, baby, maybe he was." Later that day, a package arrived at Claire's door. Inside was a small card, handwritten, "To Emma, keep dancing. You light up the world. Love, Keanu." Underneath the note was a box of colored pencils, glitter markers, and a sketchpad filled with blank pages. Emma squealed with joy. Claire sat down slowly, hands trembling. Her world had shifted overnight, not because she met a famous actor, but because someone had seen her when she felt invisible. Across the city, Bradley Voss was having a very different kind of day. He sat in a boardroom filled with other investors. His head ached, and his thoughts wouldn't stay still. The image of Keanu handing him that glass of water played in his mind like a loop. His assistant walked in with a file. "Sir, you asked for a full report on KeanuReeves." Bradley nodded. The file was thick. Inside were stories, not of movie premieres or awards, but of secret hospital visits, anonymous donations, and long nights spent volunteering at shelters. "He's been doing this for years?" Bradley asked, stunned. "Yes, sir," the assistant replied. "He doesn't like attention." Bradley leaned back in his chair. The weight of his shallow laughter at the gala now felt heavier than ever. "Schedule a meeting with him," he said quietly. "He doesn't take meetings, sir." Bradley hesitated, then find another way. But it wouldn't be that simple. Keanu was already 3 steps ahead, not in business, but in heart. Over the next few days, news quietly spread about a new foundation dedicated to underprivileged children. No press release. Named Keanu. No. Headlines screamed his name, but the ones who mattered knew. The children knew. The families knew. And the people who had laughed at him began to rethink what respect really meant. At a small community center in Queens, renovations began. New paint, new windows, new books, no ribbon-cutting ceremony. Just quiet change. And one morning, Claire arrived there with Emma, not knowing what to expect. A volunteer met her at the door. "Hi," he said warmly. "You're Claire, right?" She nodded. "Follow me," he said. He led her through the halls of the freshly painted building to a room filled with art supplies, reading corners, and soft music playing in the background. Emma's eyes lit up. On the wall was a quote painted in bright colors. It read, "See others. Truly see them. That's where kindness begins." Underneath it, in small letters, it said, "Inspired by a friend." Claire couldn't breathe for a moment. Then she turned to the volunteer. "Who painted that?" He smiled. "Someone who believes in small things with big meaning." And somewhere in another part of the city, Keanu Reeves was pushing open the back door of a shelter, carrying groceries and wearing a plain hoodie, still mistaken for a worker, still serving quietly, still changing everything. The boy on the steps. Morning fog rolled in slow and silent over the Brooklyn skyline. The city was waking up, but not everyone had a warm place to wake up in. On the cracked steps of a quiet shelter, a boy sat alone, maybe 11, maybe younger. His shoes were torn, and his jacket was too thin for the chill in the air. His name was Malik. His eyes didn't blink much. They had seen too many things a child shouldn't see. His hands were wrapped around a paper bag holding a bruised apple and a broken sandwich. Then a shadow appeared beside him. Not a loud one, not rushed. Just a man in a hoodie with a grocery bag in each hand. Malik didn't move. "Hey," the man said, softly. "Cold morning." Malik shrugged. "You hungry?" the man asked. Malik didn't answer. The man sat on the step next to him and pulled a warm sandwich from his bag, wrapped in foil. He didn't hand it over. He just set it down on the step between them. They sat in silence for a minute. Then Malik reached for the sandwich. "Thanks," he mumbled. "You're welcome," the man said. "What's your name?" Malik asked without looking at him. Keanu. Malik looked sideways. "Like the movie guy." Keanu smiled. "Something like that." Malik snorted a little laugh, then took a big bite of the sandwich. Keanu watched him quietly. "You come here a lot?" Malik asked with his mouth full. "Yeah," Keanu said. "I help out when I can." Malik looked down. "You don't seem like the kind who helps people." What kind is that? Keanu asked. Malik shrugged. Usually people just walk past or take pictures and leave. Keanu nodded slowly. Well, maybe I'm a different kind. Malik was quiet for a moment. Then he said, You ever sleep on these steps? Not these, Keanu replied. But steps like them. Malik turned and stared at him. Really? Yeah, Keanu said. I've been where you are. Maybe not exactly, but close enough to know it hurts. Malik looked away. I don't need help, I know, Keanu said. Sometimes we just need someone to sit with us. They sat together a little longer, watching the sky brighten behind the rooftops. Later that morning, Keanu entered the shelter through the back door like always. He carried groceries, boxes of donated coats, and a crate of new books no one made a fuss. They were used to him now. Inside, Claire was sitting at a small desk, helping with volunteer sign-ins. She smiled when she saw him. You're early, she said. Couldn't sleep, he replied. She looked past him toward the front door. Who's the boy? Keanu turned. Malik had followed him inside, standing in the doorway like he didn't know if he was allowed to be there. He's brave, Keanu said. He doesn't look it, Claire whispered. Bravery doesn't always look loud, Keanu replied. They invited Malik in, gave him a warm drink and a clean sweatshirt. He didn't talk much, but he didn't leave either. Claire watched as Keanu helped him sort through books. He treated the boy like an equal, never talking down to him. Malik started to smile. The director of the shelter, an older woman named Miss Evelyn, approached. Claire, you know, she said quietly, I've run this place for 20 years. I've seen celebrities come and go. Some write checks, some take selfies. But that man, he moves differently. Claire nodded. He sees people. Miss Evelyn narrowed her eyes. And people see him. There's a storm coming. Claire looked confused. What do you mean? She asked. Miss Evelyn handed her a newspaper. On the front page was a picture from the gala, a blurry but unmistakable photo of Keanu handing champagne to a guest. The headline read, Keanu Reeves mistaken for waiter at gala. Turns out to be anonymous mega donor beneath it. The story spread like wildfire. The press had found him. The secret was out. Within hours, the shelter's phone wouldn't stop ringing. Reporters called. Cameras showed up. Curious strangers came by pretending to volunteer just to catch a glimpse. Keanu wasn't there that afternoon. He had left after lunch, walking Malik to a nearby basketball court and letting the boy shoot hoops while he waited in the shade. When he finally returned, Claire met him at the back door. They found you, she said softly. Keanu sighed. I figured it was coming. What now? She asked. He looked out across the street at the group of photographers waiting like wolves. We don't run, he said. We shift that night instead of hiding. Keanu walked out the front door of the shelter with Claire and Malik beside him. Reporters shouted questions. Cameras flashed. Keanu raised his hand. I won't give a speech, he said quietly. But the crowd hushed. I'm not here to be famous, he continued. I'm here because the city has children who sleep on sidewalks, parents who work 3 jobs and still can't afford bread. I'm here because it matters. He looked down at Malik, and he matters. Then he walked past the cameras holding Malik's hand. He didn't give the media what they wanted. He gave them what they needed. Truth. The next day, Bradley Voss watched the footage on his tablet in a quiet office. He had tried to forget the night of the gala, tried to ignore the headlines. But now something inside him was shifting. He closed the tablet and stared at the wall. Then he picked up his phone and made a call. Get me the Reeves Turner Foundation, he said. They don't take cold calls, sir. Then tell them I'm ready to listen, he said. And for once, Bradley Voss met it. The circle of changeth next morning. The shelter opened early. There was a different kind of energy in the air. More people had come to help than ever before. The donation bins were overflowing. The halls were filled with warmth. Something had changed. People had seen the clip of Keanu's calm voice echoing through the crowd. Not from a red carpet, but from the sidewalk. Not dressed as a movie star, but as a man holding a child's hand. Volunteers whispered his name, some still in disbelief that he was real. But Keanu didn't speak of it. He arrived at sunrise as usual, wearing his hoodie, pushing a dolly full of fresh produce. He greeted the same staff. He served the same breakfast. Nothing changed about him, but everything changed around him. Malik was there, too, wearing clean shoes someone had donated. He stood taller now. His laughter came easier. He stuck close to Keanu, like a shadow that had finally found its light. Inside the foundation's main office, Elliot Turner sat with Claire, reviewing proposals. The calls haven't stopped. Elliot said, "People want to donate, volunteer, invest." Claire looked up from the documents. "They saw the truth. That's rare and powerful," Elliot added. "This moment can either become a headline or a movement." Claire nodded slowly. What would Keanu want? For the focus to stay on the kids, Elliot said without hesitation. Outside, Keanu stood with Malik near the wall with the painted quote. "You like that one?" Keanu asked. Malik nodded. "It makes me feel like I matter." "You do?" Keanu said. "Always." A few minutes later, Claire stepped out with a folder in her hand. "Keanu," she said, walking up to him, "Elliot wants to launch something new, a traveling project. Shelters that move, help where it's needed most." Keanu raised an eyebrow. "Like food trucks, but with kindness." Claire smiled. "Exactly." He looked over at Malik. "You ever been on a road trip?" Malik's eyes widened. "Never." Keanu turned back to Claire. "Let's build it." That same evening, a black car pulled up to the curb. Bradley Voss stepped out, suit pressed, phone in hand. He looked out of place in the humble street outside the shelter. He hesitated before walking in. Keanu was unloading blankets from the back of a van when Bradley approached. "Hi," Bradley said awkwardly. Keanu looked up, recognizing him instantly. "Hello," he replied calmly. Bradley swallowed hard. "I came to apologize. For the gala. For the things I said." Keanu nodded. "It's not about what you said. It's about what you choose to do now." Bradley looked down. "I want to help." "Then listen more than you speak," Keanu said, handing him a blanket. "And start here." Bradley took the blanket, unsure, then followed Keanu inside. The two men worked side by side that night. No cameras, no press, just hands lifting what others had dropped. Bradley learned what silence sounded like in a room full of broken stories. A few weeks passed. The Reeves Turner Foundation launched the new project quietly. They called it the Kindness Caravan. It wasn't flashy. It didn't make headlines, but it made impact. Mobile shelters, therapy sessions in vans, pop-up schools, on wheels, and at the heart of it was a team led by people who had once been forgotten, people like Claire, who now directed entire neighborhoods of change, and Malik, who spoke to kids his age about survival and hope. Keanu didn't attend ribbon cuttings. He drove the vans himself, cooked meals on roadside stoves, slept in back rooms when nights were long. His fame never entered the room before his kindness did. In one small town in New Jersey, a girl named Sophia stood in the parking lot of a closed-down school. Where the caravan had parked, she looked frightened. Alone, Keanu walked up to her with a soft smile. "Hey," he said. "You okay?" She shook her head. "I don't talk much. That's okay," he said. "You don't have to." She looked up at him. "You're him, right? The guy from the movies?" Keanu looked surprised. "You know me?" She nodded. "My mom used to watch your movies before she left." Keanu sat down on the curb beside her. "Do you want to talk about her?" She shook her head again. "Okay," he said. "Then let's just sit." And they did, for an hour, in silence, until she reached for his hand. Sometimes, presence is the loudest gift. Back in the city, Claire watched the footage coming in from all the towns the caravan had visited. Stories poured in. A homeless vet reunited with his sister, a child finding a home, a mother learning to read. The board wanted to do a press campaign, but Claire called a meeting and said, "No press. Let the stories breathe without headlines." Elliot agreed. "This is not about spotlight. It's about soul." Meanwhile, Bradley Voss became a quiet donor, anonymously funding new caravans across the East Coast. He stopped appearing at parties, stopped chasing praise. He was becoming something new. Not a man with wealth, but a man with worth. And every week, he returned to the shelter. He swept floors. He served food. He sat with people and didn't speak, just listened. One afternoon, as he watched Keanu fix a broken heater, he asked, "How did you become this?" Keanu paused. "Pain," he said, "and the choice not to pass it on." One rainy evening, Malik sat beside Keanu in the caravan. Double quotes. "Do you think I'll ever matter to the world?" Malik asked. Keanu looked at him, eyes soft. "You already do," he said. "You just haven't seen how far your ripple goes." Malik leaned on his shoulder and whispered, "Thank you for not walking past me." Keanu whispered back, "Thank you for letting me stop." They sat there, a boy and a man both, once invisible, now moving the world quietly. The final roomed first snow of the season fell quietly over the city. Tiny flakes drifted down like silent blessings, covering streets, rooftops, and sidewalks in soft white. In the distance, Christmas lights blinked gently behind frosted windows, and steam curled from subway grates like warm breath from a tired giant. At the Reeves Turner Foundation, the main shelter was decorated with paper snowflakes cut by children. Candles flickered safely in jars on windowsills, and in the art room, Malik sat beside Claire, helping Emma paint cards for the upcoming holiday event. He looked different now. His shoulders had relaxed. His eyes no longer darted with fear. He laughed, even loudly sometimes. "You've changed," Claire said quietly, smiling. Malik glanced at her. "Keanu says I just remembered who I was." "He's right," Claire whispered. Meanwhile, Keanu stood inside an old building in the Bronx, the final stop of the Kindness Caravan that year. It had once been a youth center, but now was just a hollow frame of peeling paint and broken windows. He ran his hand along the dusty wall. The room was cold, forgotten. He turned to the architect beside him, a young woman named Alina who had volunteered to redesign it. "Can we bring it back?" he asked. "We can do more than that," she replied. "We can give it new breath." Keanu nodded. "Then let's start." They began work that same week, not with bulldozers, but with brooms, paintbrushes, and teams of volunteers who believed in second chances. Bradley Voss was among them, wearing a beanie and old boots, hauling wood and hammering beams. No one recognized him, and he liked it that way. Malik painted a mural on the main wall, bright colors swirling into images of hope, joy, and people holding hands. "What's it called?" Claire asked him. "The Room of Never Giving Up," he replied. On the final night of the project, a celebration was held. No stage, no microphones. Just candles, food, and people who had once been strangers sitting together like family. Elliot Turner stood by the window and watched the snow fall. "We built something," he said softly to Claire. "No," she replied. "We are something," near the center of the room. Keanu helped Emma hang the final ornament on a paper tree taped to the wall. Malik stood beside him, holding a tray of cookies he'd made himself. Keanu turned to the crowd and said quietly, "This isn't about me. It never was. This is about choosing to see others, not looking past pain, not laughing at struggle. It's about slowing down long enough to ask, 'Are you okay?' and meaning it." Everyone was silent, not because they were unsure what to say, but because they felt it. Deep down. After the event, Keanu stepped outside. Snow fell heavier now, but he didn't rush. He stood still, just breathing. A voice spoke behind him. "You changed my life." Keanu turned. It was a man in his 40s, thin coat, rough hands, eyes that had seen too much. "I was at that gala," the man said. "I was catering. I saw you give that little girl your full attention. No one saw me. Not that night. Not ever. But after that, I started volunteering. Now I help kids. Because you helped me see that I wasn't invisible." Keanu didn't know what to say. He just hugged the man. Tight. Warm. Like he understood the language of hearts. Months passed. The Kindness Caravan expanded. New vans. New towns. More stories. Malik grew into a leader, speaking to youth across the country. His speech at a school in Detroit went viral, not because he was famous, but because he was real. Claire was offered a National Leadership Award. She declined it. Instead, she gave a speech where she held up a photograph of Keanu, this man. She said, "Once walked into a ballroom full of power and money. He wore a tuxedo. And because he didn't ask for attention, they mistook him for a waiter. The crowd laughed gently. But what they didn't know, Claire continued, was that he was the richest man in the room. Not in dollars, in humility, in grace, in action. She paused. I was one of the people who thought I didn't belong anywhere. And he reminded me that kindness is not a whisper, it's a wave. And tonight, I hope we all decide to be that wave, standing. Ovation. Tears. Hope. 1 year later, on the anniversary of the gala, the same ballroom hosted another event. This time, it wasn't for investors. It was for families. Kids from shelters, single parents, volunteers, everyday people. Keanu walked in again, same tuxedo. But this time, everyone saw him, not as an actor. Not as a waiter, but as the man who made them believe in decency again. He was handed a glass of water by a boy in a red sweater. The boy smiled. My mom says you helped us. Thank you. Keanu bent down. You help others now, too, he said. Don't stop. The boy nodded. I won't. As the music played and people danced under the lights, Keanu stepped away to the side of the room, watching. Elliot joined him. You'll never fully see what you've done, Elliot said. Keanu smiled. I don't need to. Then he turned to the group of children laughing near the dessert table and whispered to himself, they're the story now. He walked out of the ballroom once more. Still quiet. Still kind. Still changing the world, one small moment at a time, not because of who he was, but because of what he gave, his presence, his attention, his heart, and that will echo forever.